Hope you're doing well. A sharp young leader from Adrian Petticord's office, Ali, asks a great question. Jamie, how do you push yourself? How do you challenge yourself? Is there a process really in pushing yourself? And I think the answer is yes. And really there's two thoughts that come to mind when I think of really challenging yourself. The first thought is, and I heard this quote a long time ago and it made me scratch my head a little bit and wonder, Jamie, you can do the right thing or you can do the easy thing. Not you can do the right thing or you can do the wrong thing. You can do the right thing or you can do the easy thing. And it really got me wondering, like, is ease and the easy path associated with wrong? And so again, it really got me thinking of really my comfort zone, and am I really seeking the path of least resistance? And so really growth comes from struggle, and growth comes from growing and pushing yourself. So be attracted to being uncomfortable, or another way to put it, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Both Gary Polson and I have concluded, interesting talking with him about this, we're at our happy place when we're striving for something, when we're pushing for something, like when you're climbing the road to success. John Maxwell says, you're on the road to success, it's uphill all the way. Okay, that's how you know you're on the road to success. And so when you're climbing and you're striving for something, you wake up in the morning with purpose. When you're at the top of the mountain, when you finally have accomplished something, that can be a scary place because you know that the forecast calls for pain. You know that after you're at the top, everything's going great in my life. I think something bad might happen here. So it's good to be on the pathway. You're pushing yourself and you're challenging yourself. Try to be comfortable again, being uncomfortable, and look for things, be attracted to things that are difficult. My second thought, and I find myself referencing this book a lot, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think this is a must read. I think everybody has read this book. If you haven't, put this at the top of your list. You got to read this book. How do you win friends? How do you influence people? By the end of the book, it's interesting. There's a great quote that I've referenced a lot, and I've really thought about this a lot over the years. Carnegie says the way to develop self-confidence, like there's a process in developing self-confidence, is to do the thing that you fear to do and get a record of successes under your belt. So it really got me thinking, is that really how you develop self-confidence? You do something that's scary, you do something that you're a little fearful of, and you get a record of successes under your belt. So I want to just share a few things in my life that I've done, and what has that, what's happened, what happened to me, what's the growth process like when you do some of these things. So I remember, Tedford Pika sent me this book, The Ultra Marathon Man. He says, Hep, just read the first chapter. If you're not interested, just put the book down. I'm like, okay, what an easy commitment. Let me read the first chapter. Got hooked on the book, and next thing you know, Tedford and I signed up for a marathon. But his pitch to me was, Hep, do something that 99.9% of the population hasn't done. Run a marathon. Sign up with me. Run the 26.2 miles. And so, again, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be attracted to ease and comfort. Why would I want to push my body to run 26.2 miles? And so I ran the marathon, and did that build my confidence? Just knowing you did something that most people don't do? Of course. There was a time I was in Maui recently with my family, and my son and I have been watching these people do this cliff jumping at Black Rock Beach. For those of you that have been to Maui before, you know Black Rock Beach. And so it's scary when you climb to the top of that, cliff that you're going to jump into the water. You're like, well, that's a long ways down. And so, I stretch my comfort zone. I jump in first, and I'm treading water. I'm like, come on, son, come on. And so it took him a minute, and by the time he finally jumped, the beach was applauding because everybody on the beach could tell that this fearful young man, he did not want to jump in the water, but he did. He pushed himself, he jumped in the water, and I'm telling you, it just stretches the comfort zone. I don't want to be attracted to something totally dangerous and threaten my life, but to do something that you fear to do, and you do it, and you just kind of lift your head up like, what else can I do? It builds self-confidence. A few years back, I'm in Belize. We're on this wonderful snorkeling trip. The water was so warm, it's 85 or 86 degrees, something like that. You're just loving the temperature of the water, no rush to get out. And there's all this wonderful marine life, and we see this shark in the distance. And ask the snorkel guide. We're like, hey, there's the shark. He says, oh, don't worry, it's a nurse shark. They've got rounded teeth, so go up to it, touch it. Worst case scenario, if it latches onto your arm, again, it's got round teeth. It's not going to rip your arm off. So, we're towards the end of the tour. I'm like, oh man, I have a chance to touch a shark. Never done this before, and so I go diving down, and as I'm getting closer and closer to the shark, it's looking bigger and bigger. My best guesstimate is this thing was 5 to 6 feet. And so, I'm last second, I'm reaching out, I'm ready to touch it, and I chicken out. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I was terrified. And so, get to the surface, and this guy's laughing at me. And he's like, Jamie, what are you so afraid of? And I'm like, it's a shark, dude. The thing was huge. And so we get in the boat, we're on our way back, and I feel like a loser. I didn't stretch my comfort zone. I didn't reach out and touch the shark. I was inches away from doing something I had never done. And so as we're driving back, I'm like, man, I don't want to leave Belize feeling like a loser. I'm like, let's do this again tomorrow. Can you take us on a little private trip tomorrow? Crack of dawn, I'll be ready. I want to touch a shark. So this guy picks us up. We go to this, different part. He starts throwing a bunch of, bloody things in the water. Next thing you know, as you're sitting in this little boat, you see a bunch of sharks swimming around the boat. And I'm telling you, my heart's going 100 miles an hour. I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to do this. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. Go ahead and do it. So I jump in the water, again, terrified again, there's not just one shark anymore. There's a bunch of them swimming around the boat. And so I'm like, okay, here goes nothing. Like, my kids are going to grow up without a dad is kind of what I'm thinking. But so I go in the water and I'm swimming, have a chance to finally touch the shark. I do it. Okay, I stretch my comfort zone, I do it, I touch the shark. It doesn't flinch the way I thought it would. And I'm telling you, as time goes on, probably 45 minutes to an hour later, I'm timing the dives, I'm looking for the biggest one, and I'm like grabbing them by the tail, by the time this thing is going. Again, my confidence is rising, and maybe my daringness is kind of off the charts a little bit. Maybe I was doing things I shouldn't have been doing, but again, I stretched the comfort zone. Confidence was rising. I want to give you one last example in the world of like doing things that you fear to do. When we were starting a family, my wife was going through all kinds of cleanses, all these different organ cleanses, what she was doing in preparation to get pregnant. Spare you all the details on that for maybe another episode, but she was going through this colon cleanse, and part of it was, hey, listen, you've got to fast for 6 days. So she was prepared to do that, and I'm like, you know what? I'll do that with you. I've never done anything like that. And the more I thought about it, if I can deprive myself of food, okay, physical needs, like of course I need food. We're allowed to drink apple juice, water, obviously, miso soup broth, so it wasn't, completely without anything. But again, no food, you couldn't eat anything. I'm telling you, it was by far the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Okay, of all things I've ever done in my life, there is nothing more difficult than the 144 hours of fasting that I went through. The whole week I was thinking, first thing I'm going to do, an In-N-Out burger opens up, I'm going to be waiting at the front, and I want to, just devour like a 4x4 and some fries, and I was just craving, food like that. Funny, by the end of it, once it was all done, I was craving vegetables and leafy foods. Kind of weird how that happened. But I'm telling you, again, the whole purpose of this piece that I'm going through is, when you do the things you fear to do, when you do the hard things, it builds self-confidence. So my advice to all of you, my advice to Ellie is look for difficult things. Don't be attracted to easy. Easy equals wrong. Difficult equals growth, challenging yourself. So in your weekly planning, that could be a great question. What can I do this week that I'm terrified of? What can I do this week that's going to stretch my comfort zone? And by continuously stretching the comfort zone, you will find personal growth. So I hope this helps you, Ellie. Have yourself a great week.